Brooke Schofield is no stranger to the internet's wrath. But this time, the firestorm surrounding her has reached a whole new level. Once again, she finds herself dragged into controversy, not because of something she did, but because of the man she chose to marry. Her fiancé, Miles Canton, has become the center of a swirling scandal. Old screenshots, vague accusations, and online theories have painted a dark image of his past. And no matter how many times Brooke steps up to clear the air, the internet refuses to back down. As the backlash grows, Brooke continues to defend him publicly. She isn't just protecting a partner. She's fighting to protect her own name, her own peace, and the life she's trying to build away from the noise. But the internet doesn't forgive easily. And it never forgets. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when Brooke Schofield was celebrated, a breakout star of the internet, rising fast and shining bright. Her storytime videos and brutally honest personality drew millions of viewers. She went viral for calling out her ex-boyfriend. People loved it. They rallied behind her, they subscribed, they followed, they shared. But what goes up on the internet usually comes crashing down. Soon after her viral fame, Brooke's old tweets resurfaced. Tweets that exposed a past many found deeply offensive. Tweets filled with language and perspectives she no longer stood by. But the damage was done. The internet, once her biggest cheerleader, turned on her overnight. Then came a new chapter, a new boyfriend, new photos, and a new name, Miles Canton. At first, fans were curious. Then they were confused. Then outraged. Because hidden within the depths of internet archives, someone found an old Ask.fm account. And the posts they discovered sparked immediate outrage. The screenshots from the old Ask.fm account quickly captured public attention, and speculation followed. Some messages appeared to suggest a close relationship between Miles and a younger girl named Isabella. One post in particular sparked concern. It referenced a 5-month anniversary, with many interpreting it as being written during a time when she was reportedly underage. The combination of the age gap, the tone of the posts, and the ambiguity of the images led to a wave of assumptions. Without full context, the internet began forming its own conclusions. And once that narrative gained traction, it spread fast. Accusations surfaced across platforms. Many questioned the nature of the past connection. Others turned their focus to Brooke, criticizing her for standing by Miles. Online discourse shifted from inquiry to outrage. Calls for accountability escalated, and Brooke quickly found herself at the center of a controversy she hadn't created. Despite the mounting pressure, Brooke stood firm. She stated the account was fabricated, the screenshots manipulated, and reiterated that she had spoken directly with Isabella, who, according to Brooke, denied any romantic involvement with Miles. Still, the internet had made up its mind. In many corners of social media, explanation wasn't the goal. Escalation was. In the midst of all this chaos, Brooke and Miles got engaged. A moment that should have been joyful, celebratory, unforgettable, was immediately swallowed by controversy. She announced the engagement on Instagram, smiling, glowing, clearly proud. But the internet wasn't having it. Instead of congratulations, her comment section filled with hate, not because people didn't want her to be happy, but because they didn't believe she should be happy with him. Every post became a battleground. Every like, every story, every word she shared was dissected and turned against her. And if that wasn't enough, another massive shift happened at the same time. Brooke and Tana Mongeau announced the end of their podcast, canceled, a move that only added fuel to the fire. For critics, it was confirmation. The pressure was too much, the backlash too loud. Brooke couldn't keep it together, they said. She couldn't handle the heat. But they didn't understand what she was going through behind the scenes. The comments weren't just mean, they were invasive, obsessive, and relentless. Brooke found herself defending the same story over and over, responding to strangers, clarifying the same points. And no matter how many times she said it, it never stuck. She had spoken to Isabella. They had never dated. There was no relationship, no intimacy, just rumors, blown up and reshared without evidence. But that wasn't good enough. Because on the internet, truth is whatever goes viral. And Brooke's truth was buried beneath millions of views, stitched clips, and out-of-context commentary. Finally, she broke her silence, again. On Instagram stories, she posted a long, heartfelt statement. No more vagueness, no more hints, just raw emotion. She declared that she would never, under any circumstance, defend a man who had been with a minor, that she had lived through trauma herself and took the issue seriously, that if there was any truth to the story, she would never stand by him. She explained how the rumor started, a Reddit thread, not an accuser, screenshots without context, and a girl who denied everything. But Brooke knew what she was up against. The kind of story that doesn't go away, the kind of accusation that sticks, even without proof. Brooke's frustration poured out in every sentence. She spoke about the toll the past year had taken on her. The anxiety, the pressure, the constant weight of trying to defend something she believed was already disproven. Everywhere she turned, someone had made a new video about her. Another accusation, another take, another twist. She couldn't scroll without seeing her face tied to a word she despised. She had to relive the same nightmare daily. Even her engagement, the moment she had dreamed of her whole life, was ruined. Not just online, but emotionally. Instead of celebrating, she was sick to her stomach. Instead of making memories, she was reading accusations. Instead of living in love, she was buried in hate. She resented it, all of it. She had tried to separate real life from the internet, tried to protect her peace, tried to shield the person she loved most from the chaos. But it didn't work. The hate broke through every wall she put up. It consumed everything. And it left her exhausted. Brooke's story had become more than just a personal battle. It had become a case study in how internet culture operates. The rumor hadn't come from a source, a victim, or a friend. It had come from Reddit, anonymous, untethered, spun into TikToks, transformed into tea, and monetized commentary. With every repost, the narrative gained power. Facts didn't matter, context didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was the momentum. The images were enough. The screenshots, real or not, became gospel. And Brooke, regardless of what she said or showed, could not stop the story from spreading. She was caught in a digital machine that rewards outrage and punishes nuance. It wasn't just about Miles anymore. It was about her. People weren't asking questions, they were making demands. They wanted apologies, they wanted accountability, they wanted her to fall. And in their eyes, defending Miles made her just as guilty. Amid her frustration, Brooke posed a difficult question to her audience, one that cut to the heart of the issue. Why her? Why was she, of all people, being held personally responsible for something her fiancé was alleged to have done 10 years ago, long before they met? She pointed to other public figures, men with actual accusers, actual evidence, actual criminal investigations, and asked why their girlfriends and wives weren't hunted down the same way. Why did she become the lightning rod? The answer was complicated, and maybe there was no answer at all. Maybe it was timing, maybe it was jealousy, maybe it was just the algorithm. But Brooke's question echoed loudly. Why does the internet demand accountability from women for the alleged sins of men they love? In a culture obsessed with blame, she had become the target. The worst part of it all wasn't just the reputational damage. It was what Brooke lost privately, in the moments no one else could see. She had spent months quietly hoping the storm would pass, staying silent, staying composed, staying gracious. But when silence didn't work, she spoke. When speaking didn't work, she begged. And even that didn't matter. There was no winning. No path forward that didn't end in more pain. Her engagement, something intimate, sacred, meaningful, became a punchline. The happiest time of her life had been hijacked by strangers. Her phone, once a tool of connection, had become a source of dread. She resented needing to explain herself at all. She resented having to prove that she wasn't complicit in something that never happened. And most of all, she resented how the internet had managed to ruin something that was never theirs to touch. As the backlash intensified, cracks began to form not just in Brooke's public image, but in her professional life too. The canceled podcast, once a chaotic yet beloved corner of the influencer world, was officially coming to an end. At first, it seemed like a mutual decision, a natural ending, but fans weren't buying it. The timing was too suspicious, the pressure too obvious, the stress too visible. Behind the scenes, Brooke and co-host Tana had been struggling. What once brought them laughter and excitement now only brought exhaustion. The spark was gone, the fun was gone, the freedom was gone. Tana spoke about it openly in their final recordings. She described the toll the podcast had taken on them both, how neither of them felt joy doing it anymore, how the constant drama, the endless public scrutiny, and the heaviness of it all had become suffocating. It wasn't just burnout, it was survival. For Brooke, the end of the podcast wasn't just about stepping away from a project. It was about protecting herself. She had reached her limit. In private, she had been holding it together, barely. In public, she had tried to remain poised, always. But inside, she was unraveling. She admitted that her mental health was at a breaking point. The pressure of being a public figure, already difficult, had become unbearable in the face of this controversy. The internet expected her to stay composed while under fire, to be empathetic while being dehumanized, to be transparent while being lied about. And she couldn't do it anymore. Ending the podcast wasn't weakness, it was a boundary, it was self-preservation. It was her way of saying, enough. Just when things seemed like they couldn't get worse, another twist sent the internet into overdrive. A clip from Jeff Wittek's podcast surfaced, a clip that many saw as a personal attack on Brooke. The episode was meant to be lighthearted, but quickly took a turn. As they joked about the end of Canceled, Jeff's co-hosts began throwing jabs at Brooke. They called her names. They brought up the accusations. They made it clear they didn't like her, or her fiancé. Jeff didn't say the worst parts, but he didn't stop them either. He laughed. He let it happen. He moved on. But Brooke didn't. Behind the scenes, she reached out. She let Jeff know exactly how she felt, and it caught him off guard. He didn't even realize it was her at first. But when he did, the guilt hit immediately. In the following episode, Jeff addressed it. He admitted it was a mistake. He expressed regret. He even apologized. But the damage was already done. Brooke had once again become the center of a joke. Her trauma had become content, and her pain had become entertainment.